Pike County Fiscal Court is called to order. Madam Clerk, have a roll call, please.
Judge Rutherford.
Present.
Master Anderson.
Here.
Master Johnson. Here. Master Murphy. Master Robinson. Master Dodson.
Here.
Master Harris.
Here. We have a quorum. We now have Pledge of Allegiance led by Magistrate Murphy. You have in your packets a copy of the minutes from the February 21st meeting of the Pike County Fiscal Court. I have reviewed them. Jeannie has reviewed them. Rose, I want to commend you again because we had a rather lengthy meeting and where the commissioners and directors, of course, was talking about their needs for their department, and it was a very large meeting and a lot of pages for you to digest and get down on paper, and as you do a wonderful job in regard to the minutes.
Thank you.
Are there any questions in regard to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Magistrate Murphy, second from Magistrate Johnson. I have a roll call vote, please.
Master Anderson.
Yes.
Master Johnson.
Yes.
Master Murphy. Yes. Master Robinson. Master Dodson.
Yes.
Master Harris.
Yes.
Judge Rutherford.
Yes. Nobody has signed in for public comment, so we'll move to next on the agenda, which is, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to preside at this court meeting in regard to this, because it's something that it goes back a long time to about 2005, and when the Artist Collaborative Theater was established at Elkhorn City. If I remember that Stephanie, a child born around Elkhorn City up Elkhorn Creek, had like myself and like a lot of people, they migrated somewhere else and they was educated, and then they had their training and then decided to come back home. And it was, and when she came back, and I remember she started out in the Breaks Interstate Park. Then as the years went by, this court, along with our legislators and the county departments of our Public Works Department, and a lot of people contributed. Elkhorn City, I'm a member of the Extension Board here in the county. I attend those meetings regularly, and this is an extension of the University of Kentucky Office for Fine Arts. And if I remember, this was the first one established in the Commonwealth. I think possibly you got 2 now. You got 5 now, and we was the pilot program that's going to see whether or not it worked. Well, it not only worked, it has been phenomenal what's happened through this theater. So it's a pleasure for myself and the members of this court, because we have, and Leo Murphy, the magistrate in that district, and the mayors of Elkhorn City, and their governing body, and all of us has had a sincere interest to make sure that this was, and what a beautiful little theater. Hopefully, and I think that our legislators in this court, that there will be more money forthcoming so that other things can be done at that theater. So it is a pleasure for me to have this opportunity, and we have a resolution, and Judge Hayes, if you would read the resolution, please.
It's a resolution of the Pike County Fiscal Court recognizing the Artists Collaborative Theater for its accomplishments. Whereas the Artists Collaborative Theater in Elkhorn City won first place at the Kentucky Theater Competition with its production of Dearly Departed. And whereas the Artists Collaborative Theater won 4 of 6 awards at the state competition, including Best Director, Best Ensemble, and Best Team Most Professional. And whereas being the #1 theater in the state has earned Artist Collaborative Theater the right to go on to the regional competition called Southeast Theater Conference, SETC, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, March the 7th through the 11th. And whereas SETC includes 10 southern states, 388 workshops, 10 state-winning plays, over 50 performances, and over 4,000 theater artist participants. And whereas the Artist Collaborative Theater is now the most award-winning theater in the Commonwealth of Kentucky after just 10 years in existence. And whereas all of Kentucky should be proud that theater arts are alive, well, and excelling in Pike County, now therefore be it resolved, the Pike County Fiscal Court recognizes the achievements and accomplishments of the Artist Collaborative Theater and wishes them luck as they move forward. Witness this our hands, this the 6th day of March, 2011, signed by County Judge Executive, the County Attorney, and the Magistrate of each of the 6 districts.
Do we have a motion to approve the resolution? Motion by Magistrate Murphy. Do you have a second? Magistrate Johnson, have a roll call vote, please.
Magistrate Anderson?
Yes.
Magistrate Johnson? Magistrate Murphy? Magistrate Robinson? Magistrate Dodson?
Yes.
Magistrate Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes. Stephanie Richard, would you come around and I know that you want to speak for this and tell us who this group is you have with you. And as you know, I guess my picture was up here. I got to participate, and I see my wife sitting back there. And did you catch the name of that, Brandon? That one I was in.
It's actually the one we're taking to competition. So we should take you to Chattanooga.
Might add, that was a week before I had my knee operated on. And they told me I had to fall down on the floor and die. And I said, you'll never get me up, because I could never get up with my bad knee. So graciously, they let me pass on the table.
We'll accommodate you. Thank the court so much. There's not much left to say after those wonderful words. We appreciate each and everything and each and every moment that Pike County has given us through this fiscal court and the Pike County people. We especially want to thank the entire court, our magistrates, Judge Rutherford, the Pike County Extension Service, and the Board of Directors for Artist Collaborative Theater, Representative W. Keith Hall, Representative Leslie Combs, and Senator Ray Jones for going out on a limb and providing us, all of Pike County, not just Elkhorn City, with a beautiful black box theater that when we started talking about it, people didn't know what a black box theater was. And so now we have one, and it's doing very well. So I want to introduce our volunteers. We have over 100 volunteers with the theater, and we showcase all local talent. We're very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that all of our ticket sales supports our business. So every show is supported by its own ticket sales, and we're very proud of that. We want to recognize, and I'm going to have them stand up. We have Sarah George, Sarah Vasquez, Zach Cheney, Emily Cheney, Emily Cash, Melanie Cheney, Gloria Ratliff, Randall Ramey, Lauren Brooks Stewart, Jason Justice, Mary Ellen Compton, Larry Compton, Mark Hopkins, and Shantana Woodward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the cast of Dearly Departed. We are taking 31 people to Chattanooga, Tennessee for 5 days and 4 nights on this educational trip. We will be competing on Saturday morning, so your prayers and blessings are appreciated Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. We'll Facebook as soon as we know what's going on and how well we did. Can you think of anything else? I also want to point out that our tech team that won Best Tech Team at the state, the entire state of Kentucky, could y'all stand up? Our tech team is the only tech team. Our tech team is the only tech team in the entire state that ranges in ages from 11 to 15, ladies and gentlemen. They were proud of our educational program. I also want to thank Rhonda and Rose and Brandon for taking care of me behind the scenes. So we appreciate you all. Thank you, Judge.
We're proud of all of you, Stephanie, and thank you for coming back home and to these beautiful mountains here in eastern Kentucky. We want to get a picture with you all, and if you all will come around, and Leo, if you will go down with me, or anybody else that wants to go from up here is welcome, but we'll get a picture and then move on with the court meeting. Next on the agenda today is a resolution support of a veterans hospital in eastern Kentucky and 29 counties of eastern Kentucky and central Appalachia. You know, when we get anything here, we have to earn it and work for it. And we have a group now that certainly has begun working. And we have two gentlemen with us today, one of our own, and then one from down to our neighbor county in Floyd County. We have Jim Wright, and everybody knows Jim back here. Now, if everybody don't know Jim Wright by the name of Jim Wright, you'll know him by the name that his family and everybody else. And if you know Wright's Produce, and if you've eaten their produce, this fellow's hauled it in. Apples by truckloads, and he ended up with a nickname called Apple Man, if you all remember over the years. And then he has with him Ron Allen. Matter of fact, Jim Wright belongs to the DAV at Johns Creek, and he also, Ron Allen, belongs to the down to the VFW 5839 at Prestonsburg, and so does Mr. Wright belong down there. Carol Napier has been coordinating with them, and she brought them to my office this past week and was able to spend some time with them. Was able to spend some time, and they deserved our time, Carl, because what they did was put together a Citizens for Veterans Health Care. And what a better way to salute our veterans than to have proper health care. And we have a hospital in Huntington, West Virginia, and Judge Hayes will read you a resolution that sets out pretty well of what the situation is. We have an 80-bed hospital at Huntington. Then we have the Lexington facility, and we know, and I know that my father-in-law recently went to Lexington. He had to go to 3 different locations that day, drive to go to 3 different locations. So it's a long time to get down there. So this group, Citizens for Veterans Health Care, and folks, it's hard to believe, they have already put together 38,000 names on petitions. And they have been submitted. Every time they get 100, they submit them to the 2 United States senators in Washington and our congressman. So this is something that's needed. Something that we need in eastern Kentucky and these 29 counties is it is a new VA hospital that will serve these counties in eastern Kentucky. And as I said, what better can you do? And we know that things have changed over the years, and we talk about new technology and all. But in the warfare we have in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's altogether different. And we have our people coming back out of Iraq, and there are psychological problems that they have to deal with, and they have to go more. They have to travel more to get their medical services. And in the future, this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow, but this is something that these folks have been working on. They're going to continue to work. And I'm going to ask Judge Hayes to read it, because we'll better understand it once that he reads the proclamation.
Resolution of the Pike County Fiscal Court to show support for a new Veterans Hospital facility, whereas the signatures of 38,158 individuals from the 5th Congressional District are requesting establishment of a full-service Veterans Hospital in the 5th Congressional District serving its 29 counties, and whereas veterans in need of medical attention or hospitalization must travel to Lexington or out of state, spending time for that travel of approximately 3 hours plus driving time to receive such medical attention or hospitalization, and thereby working an undue hardship on the veterans of Central Appalachia, and who usually are required to secure someone to drive or ride with them on such trip. And whereas Central Appalachia is the most patriotic area in America, when the Commander-in-Chief declares war, more men and women volunteer. And whereas in the 2010 annual report from the VA Medical Center of Huntington, West Virginia, statistical data reports that the Huntington Hospital served 12 counties in eastern Kentucky, 10 counties in West Virginia, and 2 counties in southern Ohio. And whereas the Huntington Hospital has 80 beds and had a patient registry of 29,813 veterans in fiscal year 2010, with total patient visits during the year at 308,873, and whereas if all veterans registered used the Huntington Hospital on an equal basis, this would mean each veteran had medical appointments averaging 10.3 times per year, or almost a trip a month. And whereas the lack of a geographical central location for a new veterans hospital for those in Central Appalachia, and the large number of those veterans who may need medical attention but are unable to travel or hire a driver to get to a veterans hospital facility, have a severe impact on family budgets and on the economy of the 29 counties. Now therefore be it resolved by the Pike County Fiscal Court that it goes on record to show support to obtain a full-service Veterans Hospital located somewhere in the 29 counties. Witness our hands, this is the 6th day of March, 2012, signed by the County Judge Executive, the County Attorney, and each of the 6 magistrates.
Any questions? If not, have a motion.
Judge, I'll be glad to make a motion. I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran of Vietnam, and I travel to Prestonsburg every 3 months and probably twice a year to Huntington too. So I would love to see a veterans hospital close around here. So I'll make the motion.
Motion by Magistrate Murphy, to have a second by Magistrate Anderson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Magistrate Anderson?
Yes.
Magistrate Johnson?
Yes.
Magistrate Murphy?
Yes.
Magistrate Robinson? Yes. Magistrate Dodson?
Yes.
Magistrate Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Motion carried. Let me thank both of you all and those people who's on your committee for this endeavor, and hopefully you're setting up something that will happen in the future.
Judge, it's nice of these guys to come. If there's anything they'd like to say, I think now would be a good time to give them opportunity to speak if you have something you want to.
We had asked earlier if they wanted to speak. So, but if they want to come around, you come around to the microphone, but I think Jeannie had talked with them, and if you want to, as Magistrate Hart said, you're welcome. If not, you need to pick up a copy of your resolution, and Carl will handle that for you. Thank you so much, both of you. Next on the agenda, and I see this is listed wrong on the agenda. This is not for engineering services on an agreement on the Raccoon Creek acquisition and demolition FEMA project. Engineering is not in the guidelines, and I went back and got my notes that I had used previously, and when I did my notes, It said project manager Jack Sykes, point person Jimmy Kaiser, Pike County floodplain manager, oversight Frankie Stacy, Rhonda James, legal the Pike County attorney, and that's engineering is not it is not under their guidelines eligible to hire a engineering work because they don't need any engineering work. What Mr. Sykes was asked to do was to be a project manager of this project. Jimmy Kaiser will be the point man on this. I read a letter into the record at the meeting of the reason, as county judge executive, the reason for the project being kept in the fiscal court's control and of the control here in Pike County. So we now have to approve a contract, and Magistrate Harris asked at the previous meeting if the $75,000 was the limit. It is the limit that they can get. There will be others in this project, I'm sure. And Mr. Sykes, of course, it's Summit Engineering is the name of his company, but he would be project manager on this project. We need to get this project started. Might add that this is the FEMA relocation of relocating people out of the floodplain that's been in multiple floods. This Coon Creek it runs all the way from the head of Coon Creek down to Johns Creek, which means that you would have Zebulon, you'll see a map on there of Coon Creek where it runs. You'll also see the devastation from the flood. I'm reminded of the fellow who lived over there who was 79 years old, and it was his third flood that he had water in his house. And he said, "Judge, I can't go back. I've moved into Myers Tires. I can't do it anymore." And that is the purpose of us applying for FEMA grant. The amount of that grant is $3.4 million, 26 houses, and I might add that Jimmy Kaiser and with his assistant Frank Hopkins went with him. They measured every one of those houses. They did the most of the legwork. The ad district, there was no contract, no verbal or written contract for them to even do an application. I signed it on the last day simply because we didn't want to lose the $3.4 million. After I did that, I put the letter together on November the 18th is when I sent the letter to Sandy Runyon. We had two Pike County agencies. One is our LATA program, which Mr. Johnson is chairman. They wanted to operate this program. And also we had our Pike County Housing Authority who had asked that they operate it. I informed both of them that we was going to keep it in-house for the reasons that it was read into the record at the last meeting, because we didn't want people having to go to Floyd County to either on a question they had or call them on the telephone in Floyd County. Our legal advisor for Pike County is a Pike County attorney, and he's located here in the Pike County Courthouse, and he will be the legal advisor in regard to this grant. We have the other grant, which is the NRCS grant, which was about the same amount of money, wasn't it, Jeannie? And that one is well underway. It's already has several people who they have bought out. How many? 5 they've already bought out. They are now in the process, and matter of fact, they had a meeting here today, the NRCS people out of Lexington, helping us try to move this forward and to answer the questions for the rest of these people. I think hopefully they'll have around 30 to 33 homes that they will be moving out to. Now, the good news is that we have another application pending with FEMA, and we hope this fiscal year to hopefully get another $2 to $3 million to help finally locate these people. The blessed people over there in this area, it includes Winds Branch, and we know what's happened at Winds Branch over the years. They clean up, FEMA pays them the money they got, they go back in, then they get flooded again. Now Judge Hayes in his very thoughtful prayer of talking about what was going on in the tornado and the hardships they had, and yes, those other counties helped us and donated to our people when they was in stress. And I know that in 2009, that even when I can remember Chris coming into the courthouse over there, and you all had been up all day and all night, and because that first flood in 2009 went down 119 and devastated that area and then we had the 2010 the next year on the backs really of some of the same people in this area that in the Zebulon area again got hit, and then it buried to the right, hit Coon Creek, and we had, I believe, 2 deaths doing that. Are there any questions at all in regard to approving Jack Sykes and Summit Engineering to their grants person to approve them to handle this program? Any questions?
Is the agreement that's in our packet, is that the agreement that we're being asked to sign?
Mr. County Attorney.
Judge, in my understanding, this is the document which was furnished to us by Summit Engineering, and that this is the document that they want, that they would desire to have signed.
Well, I may be reading it wrong, but the way I read it, it's not $75,000, it's $101,000.
That's correct, but if you look at the breakdown, there's $26,000 for surveys, which which we're going to have to hire somebody to do the property surveys. That was allowed under materials property survey, and then the $75,000 is listed as project engineering, although if you read the footnote.
Might add again, project engineering is not eligible under the federal FEMA guidelines.
Okay, that is.
Paragraph of the front page of that.
Okay.
Now, let me say that the first part of that, beyond the $75,000 Magistrate hires, it's my understanding that that will be paid to somebody else to do. Am I correct? I don't know why this hadn't got to county attorney's office, so that they could have looked at this and had their questions answered before.
As I was going to say, it's listed as project engineering, but on Exhibit A with an asterisk, it says the line item, quote, project engineering, quote, includes preparation of the demolition plans and specifications, preparation of the necessary permits for highway right-of-ways, railroad right-of-ways, stormwater pollution prevention plans, septic tank public utility abandonment plans, project management, periodic demolition inspections, and final project inspections. On page 1 of the project descriptions, it says it's understanding that the Pike County Fiscal Court seeks Summit engineering assistance as project manager. On page 2, under task 130.0, project team, it says it will include Summit, parentheses, acting as project administrator, the project manager, the project engineer, and the project surveyor. So even though the line item says project engineering, I think the letter identifies what they're doing as being project manager. As far as the money, the $75,000 is for project engineering / project managing, and the $26,000 is for surveys, which is in the projected cost, which was approved by whoever this program's through.
Judge, one thing I did notice in the terms that Roland was just talking about, it's got the lump sum fee for professional services for the project is $101,000, and then in parentheses it's got $176,000. I don't know if that needs to be corrected or not.
That definitely needs to be corrected.
It needs to be corrected. It has to be corrected. If this goes to FEMA, and we know how FEMA operates, Mr. Anderson, you know as well as I do how they operate. They like to not pay you. They want us to do the work up front, and then you never know where you're going to get your money. And if you don't prepare your paperwork correctly, this ought to went from Summit Engineering to the county attorney's office, and they ought to have proper time to review it, and then it ought to be presented to the court. So they are, let me say this, the only amount of money that the project administrator can get needs to be a cap of $75,000. The other is paid to somebody else who, under FEMA guidelines, that has to do the estimates. And I hope that answers that question, but we cannot submit this in the future for payment and expect FEMA to pay us.
Roland, I'm kind of confused on this. Is this the same project that Big Sandy had projected for $75,000, and now it's this much money? What are they doing that they're not doing?
They're doing it for the same amount under the project management as what Big Sandy Ad was going to, namely $75,000. In Big Sandy's proposal, as well as this proposal, there was $26,000 allowed for surveys. Now, in this particular document, the surveying is going to Summit Engineering. I don't know who Big Sandy Ad intended to use for the surveying. I wouldn't be surprised if they planned on using Summit Engineering to begin with, but they might have had somebody else in mind to use. I don't know who they were going to use, but anyway, there has always been a line item for $26,000 for the survey.
So it's the same money that they had said they would do it for when you look at the project as a whole.
Same money, just different pay, basically, is that right? I mean,
Yeah,
instead of Big Sandy Ad, it'd be
Let's
Summit.
make sure that that's corrected, because as I said, we don't want, and we've been through this with FEMA so many times.
We probably, if we do approve this, which I don't have any problem, if it's the same amount of money that we were paying to Big Sandy Ad, and they've I guess walked away from the project, or not walked away, but they've shown that they're not interested in pursuing it anymore. That we should change the name on the item from project engineering to project management, $75,000, and then include the $26,000 for surveys. Is that, Roland, is that what you think needs to occur?
I think consistent with what the judge said to begin the discussion, that would be more consistent with what he said. And although I think it is explained in the footnotes, I think it'd be clearer just to change project engineering to project management.
Well, subject to that revision, I want to thank Jimmy Kaiser for all the work that he did on this project, as well as others that were involved. I know it was a daunting task and your first stab at grant writing, and I appreciate all the work that you did. You did a great job on putting this together, and $3 million is you're going to be getting up there close to Charles on your grant money pretty quick if you don't watch out. So, but yeah, all right.
But now, it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, but FEMA has to approve this budget.
Everything has to be approved. That's the
before-
reason our
before it will go
documentation.
through, and so if it goes through, FEMA is okay with it.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to accept this?
Motion by
I'd like to make a
Magistrate
motion.
Harris.
These people have waited so long to get some answers, and I know they've called you guys, and they've called me, and, we are getting into the rainy season to where they are subject for it again over there, and they know that. So I want to make a motion that we go ahead and approve and get this started and not delay it after the county attorney gets everything corrected on the paper there, that we go ahead and send it down to them.
Motion by Magistrate Dotson, who's
Second.
district at this end. We have a second. Have a roll. Leo, you have some in this area?
Oh, yes, a whole lot of it's in my area, from Coon Creek, all of Coon Creek
All the
and
way.
Zebulon, and Wind's branches, and above Wind's branches. But I've got a question to you, Judge. You or somebody may answer me. I've had a few people ask me, if they agree to the buyout, the numbers that they're offering them, can they move anything like a house or a garage? Can they take and move it, keep it?
Jimmy, would you answer that question for Magistrate Murphy?
We probably ought to discuss this when the project moves on.
Well, I've been asked a question from several people because they're wanting to know if they can take this or that after they agree.
Okay,
Judge.
Leo, are you talking about,
We'll deal with it when the time comes.
All right.
Any other questions? Have a motion, a second? Jeannie, did you have something that you, and I'm gonna thank Jeannie and the rest of the staff who had input in on this, and Jeannie has handled the NRCS USDA, and she's done a bang-up job on that, but they've also helped on regard. Jeannie, go right ahead.
Leo, I think that you're talking about the projects that I'm working with NRCS, the buyouts that we're actually doing right now, and we have 5 that we've actually had offers accepted, and we've got 5 more on the table. We're waiting for it to see if they want to accept them. If they want to call me, we can discuss that. We've had discussions today during the meeting, and we'll be glad to answer their questions on that. I think there's a certain amount of things maybe, and then some things no. It's kind of.
And remember now, this is two
Okay.
different
Yes.
pots of money.
Well, if he's already had
But
questions
he has
asked,
NRCS
it's the
in his
ones that-
area
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
We're trying to, that's the reason we've got one over here and one over here. We're trying to keep those 2 pots of money separated.
Leo, I had a discussion with the team that was in here today. The reason we can't give you a straight up yes or no answer, it's what we lawyers call a gray area of the law, and there's, I laughed when I heard that. I said, surely not, but there's no definite answer that we've arrived at yet, and we've looked at the equities of it all, and of course, beyond all that, we're at a situation when we buy something, it belongs to Pike County. There's an interesting fact about the law. Pike County can dump property in the dump, but it can't give property away. I mean, it's crazy.
Any other questions?
It is, it's
If not, we
sad.
have a motion, a second, have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Dodson,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Judge Rutherford.
Yes. Next, we have on the agenda authorizing our engineering firm, which is Jack Sykes and Summit Engineering, for their grants person to apply to purchase a leachate evaporation system for the Pike County landfill. Let me say that we haul from the landfill about 60,000 gallons a week of the leachate. And we as a court understand the problems they've had out of this truck that you're looking at. That truck broke in the middle last year, if I remember. And we had a time getting it welded back together when it just bowed down in the middle. And as you know, our budget situation the way it is, we've not been able to get a new leachate truck. But this is a program that Charles Carlton has been involved in on an energy side. And of course, we had to have Mr. Lyons and his people involved in this because it's the type of project it is. This is a program that Charles, if you or Mr. Lyons want to explain what the leachate, what this program is, and we'll understand more about it. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Judge. What we're looking at is to use an evaporative system to reduce the volume by operating, so boiling in the water, driving off the water vapor, the solids and metals and other items are retained in the balance of the water and then will be mixed with other material, typically like a sawdust, to thicken it, and that's taken back and put back on the landfill itself. We would hope to get a minimum of about 50% of the water vapor taken out of the material, reducing the volume. It has to be hauled. These systems will operate down to a point of to a maximum of a reduction of about 70% of the water out, and if we have a sufficient supply of gas produced from our 14 wells, then we would get to that level. But based upon what we have currently, it looks it'll be somewhere in the 50% range. What we're doing is taking a supply of methane that we're currently burning off, and in order to, and receiving set up to receive carbon credits for, and putting it to productive use. And this productive use does not preclude getting carbon credits for the methane that we would burn in order to reduce the water volume.
Those carbon credits on the West Coast credits?
Yes, that's correct, Judge.
And it would be money coming to the Pike County government?
Correct. That does not change. Simply, we're putting our gas supply to a productive use.
And we're one of the few landfills in Kentucky, I think there are 4 of us, that has this, has the wells system.
We have about 4 that have a well system, but there is no landfill that has an evaporative system. And long-term, this should be making a cost savings in our operations.
I attended a meeting in Lexington, Kentucky, about 3 weeks ago, and this was discussed, of course. And I know then that they had been over to Frankfurt and talked to the solid waste people in Frankfurt. And the head of that agency said that they, of course, didn't approve this, but they would certainly give a letter of support and talk to those on the board. I think are there going to be 2 applications filed? One through TVA?
Yes.
And one through the state, am I correct? TVA, we're not in TVA's area, and we would start out behind because they have a point system. But with this type of program being the first one in Kentucky, and with the problem that all landfills had in regard to leachate, there's a good possibility that we could get funding from TVA. We're not, under the Kentucky Code, according to our congressman's office and those people who have been contacted, we are eligible to file even though we're not in the TVA area. But we can be funded by TVA if we are picked by them on applications, if they have other applications in the TVA area. So I think we have a good opportunity, and I think that our grants people can write these in a way that there's possibility, and there's no use going down a one-way street when we have an opportunity to file for 2. So I think that Frankfurt will support our TVA application, and they will also support the one that we file through the state. For, I guess it's federal money coming through the state, which they handle through their departments down there. So it's a good program of which Pike County government will get money from the carbon credits for. Are there any other questions for either Mr. Lyons or Mr. Carlton?
Judge, I'm just wondering how many more years it's going to take to get this thing going. We've been talking about it for several years now, and hopefully we can see some progress. But
well, we have.
You got any idea how many years it's going to take to get it?
We have the first system already flaring off over there. We're already burning off daily. And it's amazing, Magistrate Dotson, that the federal government will let us burn off the worst toxin in the world that's known to man and put it in the atmosphere and say that we're in compliance. So what we're trying to do is go to the second step, I presume, and not burn off and get the carbon credits and take care of the problem.
I just wondered if you have any idea how long it's going to take to get this thing going.
Now, which thing are you addressing? The revenue coming in?
Get the plant up and going to where it'll take care of the gas.
The flare is already up and going. It's been going for a little over a year. There's been different entities coming in wanting to determine whether or not we were producing enough gas to where they could make some electricity out of it. So we've been working with those groups. Next week, we're actually having an independent verifier come in to verify what we're saying is truthful. And then they have to submit it to the California Exchange. It takes about another month. And then we see the amount. They tell us how much we've actually destroyed and how much it's worth.
So we're talking maybe in the next 2 or 3 months we might know.
By the middle of April, we should hear something back from California. Next week, like I said, there's going to be a group representing the California Exchange come in and verify what we are saying that we've destroyed. And that has to be done every time before we sell the credits. We have to get the independent verifier to come in here and back up what we sell.
Now, this gonna be built on the landfill and then piped to other areas, is that what you're saying?
Oh, no. We're only producing, on average, 220 to 250 cubic feet a minute of gas. That's our flow, and that's been staying pretty consistent. And that's where we're limited on our use. There is enough gas there to use the evaporator that he's addressed. You can do small projects with it, but we're actually limited on, and we still have one more group that's interested in a generator system. They're having an engineering firm come in this week, as a matter of fact, to do some surveying to see if we can up our production enough to where they can run a generator. So that's still an option. But as far as destroying the methane, we've been doing that for a little over a year, and that qualifies us for carbon credits.
Judge Hayes, go ahead.
Mike, when you first presented this to me, I was very excited about it because I know what a problem leachate has been for us. How many gallons a day are we taking off of that landfill leachate?
We averaged it out. Last year, we took off 3 million gallons, a little over 3 million gallons.
That's in a year, right?
That's in a year.
I know the judge said 300,000. I think he meant to say 3 million.
Yeah, it's 3 million in a year, 60,000 a week is on
And
the average.
that has to be all hauled from the landfill over to the city and run through their plant.
That's correct.
Now, how many more years is that going to be true?
Oh, probably. It'll be producing leachate for 40 years, probably.
We're using there's a picture of a truck here. That's the truck we've been using to haul that, right?
The 96 model.
And how many gallons? How many gallons do you haul in that truck?
3,000, anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 gallons.
And I know it hadn't been running all the time, and we've been paying private contractors.
We have to pay independent contractors when that truck's down because we cannot turn the valve off on the leachate. We have a 30,000 gallon holding tank, and it just keeps producing leachate.
And
we pay a man. We've got an agreement with them currently to where we accept their sludge out of their sewage treatment plant.
That was a negotiated one before I got here.
Yeah.
The tipping fee and so forth, that was part of the negotiations.
It's a good agreement. It's a good agreement, in my opinion.
Mike,
Any other questions?
just one other thing, Judge. You've looked at all these different proposals, and from the volume of methane being produced, are you of the opinion, and Charles, you can chime in on this, that evaporator system would be the highest and best use we could, and most cost-effective use that we could make of that methane?
Most practical use for our gas that we've heard to date.
I concur.
Is there any cost associated with application?
Now on the state grant, there's a 25% match, in-kind match.
In-kind match?
And when we're wanting to do site preparation to cover us on that match. It's about a $300,000 system. As far as the cost, I'm not sure of that, of the application.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at. What about Summit? Will they be paid out of the grant if we?
They're preparing the TVA grant.
Let me answer that. They are the engineers for our landfill.
Yeah.
They are our engineers for the landfill.
They are our consultant, have been all along.
They do not charge for applications that's filed from their offices. And they will continue to be engineers, and they will be paid for the engineering work that we will probably do in-house if we get that one with your equipment and with county road equipment.
Well, they do the work. We definitely want them to get paid. I just want to make sure there was money there to pay them if we did have to pay them. So.
Correct.
No one knows our landfill any better than Kevin Howard with Summit Engineering does.
I make a motion we authorize Summit Engineering to apply for the grant.
Motion by Magistrate Harris. We have a second. Have a second from Magistrate Anderson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Magistrate Anderson?
Yes.
Magistrate Johnson?
Yes.
Magistrate Murphy? Magistrate Robinson? Magistrate Dodson?
Yes.
Magistrate Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes. Motion carried. We have approval for services of a sound system for booking of entertainment for Hillbilly Days 2012, and it's for the same amount that we do every year, and it is for Kevin Prater, and he's done that for a number of years, and that's and we know that Damus is the Public Works. They set up the stage. And that's where, of course, that they also have, and he sets up a stage, is stump speaking. And that is coordinated by my office, and Brandon Roberts handles that. So this is the one that money is in the budget, Madam Treasurer, for this each year. And that's part of our contribution for Hillbilly Day. So we will do any questions in regard to the Kevin Prater contract that we do every year. If not, have a motion.
Motion.
Have a motion, have a second. Have a second, have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Reesford?
Yes. We have been contacted by the Letcher County Judge Executive and the Fiscal Court of Letcher County. And you're aware that we partnership with them, this court has for the Appalachian Industrial Authority, which is the Gateway Park. And we have partnered with them, and we are part, and our members on that board up there is Kojak Mullins and Greg Johnson. And Letcher County's two members are Doris Adams and Jeanette Ladd. Floyd County's representative is Jim Spencer and Julian Sloan. Knott County's is Debbie Moore and Philip Champion. And that is an active board, and they operate the park. What they have asked to do, the board wants to apply for $1 million of multi-county co-severance tax funding, and match it with the $375,000 of recaptured funds, which they have, and they want to build a spec building. Now you'll see on the monitor that they have built spec buildings before. Charles Carlton and I and the Pike County government worked with a firm out of Canada, attempted to locate them in Pike County out on 119 over in the District 6 area, and the power line that had to go over, if you put this back on the map or the overview of the whole site, over to District 6, the power company wanted how many $1 million to build the KW line?
About $5.5.
$5.5 million to build the line, and the company out of Canada is one of the corporations that fall in EQT in here. They sell nitrogen, which is used in the natural gas business. So what they did, they said, no, we're not going to locate over there. We're not going to spend that kind of money. This park, which Pike County government owns 25% in Letcher County, along with these other counties, we thought, or I thought, and Charles did too, that they was going to end up in West Virginia, because in West Virginia, Island Creek Coal had not leased any oil and gas rights while they was coal mining. And when they shut down, they let Chesapeake and EQT have their properties. They're about equal, I understand. So we felt that they should go to a park in Kentucky, and especially one that Pike County government owned a part of. And we steered them towards Letcher County. The president, finance officer, and others in my conference room told us we want to locate in Pike County. They wanted on 119 so they could serve West Virginia oil and gas field, and wanted here where they could close to EQT's regional headquarters. So they ended up going to up there. and they operated and they put them in a spec building that had been built for nobody other than try to get somebody to come in. It was filled previously by a company that did business with Chesapeake, EQT, and others in the natural gas business. And they lost their contracts for some reason and had to move on. And they operated in a spec building. And I think you have on this, Brandon, a spec building, and you have the size, and then you have a picture of a spec building that they want to build up there. They want this to be a multi-county project. They partnered with us in regard to the $300,000 on the ongoing study that we're doing on 460. That is, the copy of that check is on the wall in the conference room, and it says right on it, Fletcher Fiscal Court, Pike Fiscal Court, and the check. So they have asked that we partnership with them and that we pass a multi-county resolution. And has that been provided to your office, Mr. County Attorney, for your review? And so we have that is required. And they wish to construct a new 40,000 square foot speculative building at the Gateway Regional Business Park and apply for the $1 million. So that's what the purpose of them making this request for us. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to help our area. And of course, we're involved in that park up there, same as the other counties of Letcher, Floyd, and Knott. Any questions?
Yes, Judge. I have a problem with them asking us to support this. You know, I know it's in our border, it's in our area, we own part of it, but I've seen the Judge Ward on television strongly opposing a well-needed project that we need here in Pike County, Pike College. And, you know, that would support their people. Let me finish, and then I'll quit.
Let me correct you. My conversation with Judge Ward, Magistrate Dotson, he supports UPike becoming a state university. He does not support the way they're wanting to fund it. They're not a county judge executive that I've talked to in all eastern Kentucky that opposes UPike. They oppose the using of multi-county severance tax fund to fund it. And this is two separate issues. It's not a...
It's multi-county money any way you look at it. We gave them money to start this project up there. And it's real disturbing for me to see a judge that lives so close to Pike County that we get on television and say he's against using co-severance money for supporting the college, yet his people are just as close as any other county. You know,
let me say
he's probably going to go, but I'm just, you know, I had this on my mind, and I seen him on television.
And if he would have told me,
with the other judges,
if he was told me he was against that project, I wouldn't even. I'd have told him when he sent that down here and sent it back to it. But this is a separate issue. It is now multi-county money. For those who do not know, that is a discretionary fund that belongs to the governor of the Commonwealth. The legislature has nothing to do with it. Our court, no fiscal court, has nothing to do with it. Only the governor of the Commonwealth. And it was kindly funny when I was on the TV show that Neil Middleton said some people call it the governor's slush fund. But that is strictly the governor's decision. I think that they're going to work out the UPike. If you all read the paper today, Representative Stumbo has come back and said that they've got an understanding that is worked out, and it's going to bring our bachelor's degrees up as the years go by with the rest of this Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth will be whole as far as the educational system, and our workforces of our children and grandchildren is going to be an educated workforce, and our children can be educated in eastern Kentucky at these facilities. Those facilities are the University of Cumberland's, and we know that we have one at Pippa Pass, over here in Knott County, and that'll be one in the University of Pike. Well, there's one more. There are 4, aren't they, Judge Hayes, in our area. It gives scholarship money, would if it holds together what they've got worked out. It further gives $2,000 to those money hunting schools who has blocked this. Those state universities, the most misnamed state university, is a great university, but it is Eastern Kentucky University in the Bluegrass. Then you have Moorhead, which is located in the foothills. They don't mine a lump of coal, but they provide a service to this area, and they will be fine. All these universities will be fine, but we need to bring our educational system up. I feel just like Magistrate Dotson. It irks me to think that someone, and I wouldn't have got involved in this conversation if I had not had personal conversations with every county judge, executive in these counties. Even Judge Brock, who, as you saw on KET, that was on with Governor Patton that opposed it, he has told me privately that he thinks that this ought to be done in our educational system. We have about 9% in this county, in this area of these counties, that has bachelor degrees. The other areas where they have these schools are up to 27%, 17% the average. So hopefully that part is worked out. This is altogether a separate issue. This is an opportunity. We don't know whether or not the governor can be convinced to spend it. I might add that there are money existing in that fund today. The governor had an option, and he did not do it during the election, to spend that money. This money can only be spent in the coal-producing areas for economic development. I mean, that's the law. That's what was passed. That's the law. Severance tax is not going to be opened up, and I think we as a court know why. And we wouldn't mind it to be opened up, Leo, because every time, twice, they've opened it up, we got control of the money back. So we know that they're not going to open up the Severance Tax Act again and not take a chance of losing their money. And I'm talking about the legislature. But Magistrate Anderson brought up a good thing at the last court meeting. It is a daggone shame that we have to sit here and even talk about this in a spec building when Letcher County wouldn't need any help, or we wouldn't need any help to do anything we wanted to do. And I told the governor of the Commonwealth if the way that I proposed the severance tax in '72 was that it was all to come back to the counties, and as you all heard me say, greedy governors and greedy legislators took our money and took it away from our children and the future of this area, and we started out like a third world country. But courts like ours have handled this money properly, and we have this county covered 95% with water. We have the roads blacktopped up in the 97 or 98%, and we have parks like they got down the Bluegrass, and we live now like I told them we ought to be living down there. And I don't want to get into those speeches or on the soapbox, but and I would have been just like Magistrate Dotson said. It irks me to see people that goes against things that's good for us up here. Any other questions in regard to us partnering with Letcher County to ask the governor for money? It's up to him whether or not they put that money. It only can be used for economic development. This is economic development. They filled up the other spec building, and I presume that they can fill up this spec building. And if there are not any other questions, do I have a motion to partner with Letcher County? They partnered with us. We have the money, the contract out on 460.
Judge, this is not the same money that Governor Patton was trying to get for UPAC.
He was asking for multi-county funds to build UPAC. That's what Judge Ward was objecting to, and all these other judges, because they can ask for the money and the governor's decision. Now, the one thing about it people didn't understand, the governor put that money in his budget he gave to the legislature. That money was in the budget. You know.
So it's not up to the legislators where this money is be
Up
spent?
to the governor. Now, money that comes back to us, we'll still get our money that comes back to us, the same, hopefully, same amount we got last year. I hope it stays level so we can get that amount of money and hopefully not have to cut our budget again.
But Judge, what I was trying to say, it's a shame that the parents in Pike County has to pay so much to send their kids to Moorhead in places where we could be spending the money here in Pike County.
Right.
And, you know, 17,000 is what numbers I can remember hearing them say,
Right.
and it would drop it down to 7,000.
Right.
And what better way could we help our children and our parents and our economy than to open a school up? And, you know, I've seen all the judges on there, they're for a school, but we don't want to use our money for it. And it's not their money, as you just said. It's multi-county money. It's a side money that's going to be either used for the college or used to build a building up
College
there
would have qualified
and leave it
because
sitting empty.
Thank you. They would have qualified under the economic development part. He's the only one that directs the Moses County money. Have a motion, are there a second on it? Second by Master Johnson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Master Anderson.
Yes.
Master Johnson. Master Murphy. Master Robinson. Master Dodson.
No.
Master Harris.
Yes.
Judge Rutherford.
Yes. Motion carried. Mr. County Attorney, we have the final reading on the amendment to our Pike County Junkyard Ordinance.
Judge, this is a second reading of an ordinance of the Fiscal Court of Pike County, Kentucky, amending the Pike County Junkyard Ordinance number 12.02.08.007 to add the prohibition of the purchase of stolen copper and setting a penalty for same, whereas the theft and resale of copper is a growing problem in both Pike County and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and whereas the Fiscal Court desires to strictly prohibit the purchase of reasonably recognized stolen copper, now therefore be ordained by the Fiscal Court of Pike County of the Commonwealth of Kentucky that Section .11 purchases prohibited be amended to add the following paragraph, and Section .99 is amended to provide for the penalty for violating Section .11. In summary form, the changes are Section .11 purchases prohibited. Sub B, no junk dealer or licensee may purchase any copper wire that is reasonably recognized as stolen or copper that has been scorched or any copper wire that has been smelted. Adding Section .99 penalty, Sub C, whoever violates Section 11 is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor and shall be fined not more than $500 and or jail for not more than 1 year. That is the second reading requirement.
Mr. County Attorney, I think you told us the other time that was the maximum that you could give under the statute.
That's the maximum for a Class A misdemeanor.
Any statement or question? If not, have a motion to approve. Motion by Magistrate Murphy, second by Magistrate Robinson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Master Anderson.
Yes.
Master Johnson. Master Murphy. Master Robinson. Master Dodson. Master Harris. Judge Rutherford.
Yes. Doug Tackett was to be here, and they had a mine blowout at Hatfield, and he had to leave and go over there. He was going to give a report to the court in regard to the tornadoes, and I know that I think we closed up shop about 7:55 when the Boone Center and when the National Weather Bureau said we dodged a bullet, and we went home, but the others didn't dodge a bullet. So what we did, we mobilized, and Doug mobilized immediately, and he got geared up, and the next morning we headed to both Sayersville and to West Liberty. Our vehicles was loaded. Matter of fact, they took 2 trailers down that they could use if needed. They also took a medical unit down, and I understand they took a doctor with that, and he gave physicals all day. We have 2 of those units. Am I correct, Charles? And we took one of the units down that...
yeah, you're talking about the mass casualty.
The mass casualties, we have 2 of those. We took one of those down. And we have pictures that they're going to put up on the screen that Doug took, and you're also... Our sheriff, the sheriff sent down, and the first pictures I think you're pulling up there is some of your deputies, and the Sheriff Fuzzy Kazee, we want to commend him and his staff, they sent for the purpose of security at West Liberty, Mark Harrison, Terry Justice, Greg Campbell, Constable Danny Taylor, Dino French, Keith Meadows, Robert Polis, William Eder, Todd Madley, Bill McCoy, Tammy Hager, Jimmy Meade, and Dr. Scott Akers. So Dr. Scott Akers was the doctor that went with our unit. So they guarded the banks and the businesses down there. You can see that they had that. We mobilized and we got on the telephone and talked to the judges, all the judges in this area. Doug and I talked with all the judges in our area district. You're aware that we had 2 deaths in Johnson County, and Hager Hill and Middle Creek was hit, and then it went over into, and Hatch was at the meeting, and Doug and myself, and we asked Mrs. Runyon at the ad district, Jamie Pinson, who is the regional transportation fellow, was off that day sick on Monday. Was it Monday or would have been Monday? He was off, so we asked Mrs. Runyon if she would coordinate what the others needed Pike County to do. Hatch notified our road foremen that possibility they were going to request, and they still may request. Matter of fact, in our conversation with Judge Harden yesterday morning, he said the Lexington Fayette County Police are providing security for West Liberty. I might add, the city of Pikeville sent 2 police cars to West Liberty. They lost all their cars. When Doug got down there, the police chief of the city of West Liberty was driving around in his private car with not a window in it. Not a front window or back window, or none of them. So when the city of Pikeville got the word, they sent 2 cruisers down to them. So we are, the county judge, Judge Harden told me yesterday that he expects the police from Lexington to pull out tomorrow, the next day, and I told him I would talk to Fuzzy and see what he could do for him. I talked to the sheriff today. And when they call, he'll be sending deputies down to Salyersville to help with their security. So we took blankets down there to them. We're doing everything we can do. Judge Callahan said and told Hatcher Ms. Hatch that he may need a chipper, that they had trees down, and a lot of trees down in Martin County. So Judge Daniels, where they'd lost 2 lives on Middle Fork there, and he's been contacted, Judge Harden. The other 2 judges has no communications. All the tires was blown down during the tornado. So Mrs. Runyon, through the ad district, is contacting the ad district people, and they was going to drive over and get with him and see what they needed in the way of equipment that you all have, and I'm talking to the magistrate, in your district, and any equipment or manpower that they would need that we could send and give them some help. If they make that request, Hatch will be getting a hold of each one of your magistrates and your road foremen, and we will get mobilized. If they have a plan together, they will know where to go to, what work to do, and what equipment is needed and what manpower is needed. So hopefully if we can help any way we can help, we want to help these people and help them get back to some sense of normalcy. And we know what that is to go through. We've had so many disasters here ourselves. So as you want to add anything to that, if I left anything out, I was going to let Doug make this report himself, and you'll see pictures that Doug took not only at West Liberty, but you'll see pictures. How many of you got on here, Brandon? Pictures of West Liberty and Salyersville. You go ahead, Mr. Maynard.
There's a couple things I'd like to add. CJ was down yesterday, and he'll probably go back tomorrow to help him set up their radio communications. He worked about 14 hours there yesterday. We've gotten a lot of calls about people wanting to make donations and stuff. Doug got an email this afternoon with a link to the Kentucky EMA site, and I'll give that to Brandon tomorrow to post on the Pike County website. Right now, they're asking for donations of cash mainly. Clothing, they don't have any way to process it, or
They don't have any room for any more clothing.
Put anything. So right now, the primary thing is cash, to the Red Cross, Christian Appalachian Project. I know the Southern Baptist Association went in Saturday to set up their big kitchens to feed the people and the first responders. Red Cross is in, delivering food and stuff with their herbs.
Do we have a kitchen down there you say that they are cooking in?
Yeah, it's the Southern Baptist, same ones that were here in 2002, set up where the expo center was.
I know the Hornets Restaurant over at Phelps had indicated they'd like to participate in catering or doing some food work down in that area.
On that west side, I'll give Brandon, it has a form that if anybody wants to volunteer, they can fill it out, and they'll contact them back. I need to be patient. It takes a while to go through the list to see what the needs are, but we'll get that website out. You can make monetary donations or volunteer your time.
So they're preparing the food there.
Right, yeah.
East Kentucky Broadcasting is having a radiothon in all their 7 stations. Yeah. And the Ministerial Association that handled the money of the last flood, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and contributions made to them, to be spent properly. 100% goes to the cause. And you under 501c3, under the Internal Revenue Code, you turn that in on the taxes. So any of these, Red Cross the same way, and I'm sure that the Big Sandy Red Cross will have a way that they can donate directly to them. And I may add something that we found out, and found out the hard way. We had people making checks out to American Red Cross. That money didn't go here in the Big Sandy. It went to the National Red Cross, and we had to get on the radio and do what we could do to say, folks, write it to Big Sandy Red Cross so it can be spent here to help our people. So we missed out. So we need to know if you're going to write one to the Red Cross, you write it to this Big Sandy chapter and let them go ahead and give the money to, or another chapter, say West Liberty if they had one, but in that area. But make sure it's not wrote to just the American Red Cross.
Yeah, I think everything from the Red Cross is being ran out of Lexington right now. But yeah, you definitely got to specify, the area that you want the money to go to.
Right. Any other questions of Charles and myself? What we know, Doug was going to make this presentation. Charles and I haven't been down there. He brought back all these pictures, and it was something to see. We're not used to tornadoes. My daughter drove in from Lexington, from Georgetown today, and she called me crying, said, when she got to Sayersville. I mean, she said it's just unbelievable, but we're not used to tornadoes here. We don't see the devastation. Now, when I went to Harles's Creek, it looked like what I see on the tornado today that hit, when that flood hit and the devastation up there.
I know on the website, Kentucky.com, they got a bunch of aerial photos of West Liberty and Sayersville. About, I think, 44 photos that, you can look at those.
I could tell when I was talking to my daughter, she had a lump in her throat, and I could tell tears in her eye. Because, she said down below Sayersville, Charles, before you got up there, they took every tree off the hill, every house down through there. We're blessed to be in these mountains, and when it normally, we have never had a confirmed tornado. Now, we had 2, we think. One ahead of Caney. Chick, you remember when that one come across the hill and took the roof of the old regular Baptist church and Rush Thomas's house, went over and took every tree off and scalped the hill, went into Rock House over in Marbone, didn't it, Chick? Yeah, and then, but we never had it confirmed that we had, but they don't last long. The average miles in Alabama this last go-around we had We had one county, had one went 34 miles. The average was about 17 or 18 miles, but go ahead, Charles.
Doug got a graphic from, I think, the National Weather Service today. The storm had hit the Syersville track for 49 miles, and the one that hit West Liberty was 95-mile track.
Yeah, come out of all the way from the west, didn't it?
5-mile track.
Come all the way from the west.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then when it got into the hills and the mountains of West Virginia, it dissipated.
Right.
Crossed over in Martin County. And we had them that night. We was watching Doppler radar. And believe it or not, we had them to the south of us and to the north of us, didn't we? We did. They had them down at the Kentucky-Tennessee border, Virginia border. And they had them right turning north of us. So the Lord blessed us, and we're blessed to be able as a court to assist these people that if they need more help, they will get a hold of us through their ad district, who is coordinating the plan to help them rebuild.
Just come in from Lexington and went there this morning, and it is very emotional to see. There is,
I could tell.
Here at the lights at Salyersville, you would think there is a big road construction getting ready to take place, because there is nothing on either side of Salyersville. And that hill that you look at, that you normally would have seen a entering Mountain Parkway sign, gone. Trees just leveled to the ground. And it goes for miles after you get out of Salyersville, starting on the Mountain Parkway, the hillsides. It's just like it got and was just tossing back and forth. The trees just look like toothpicks laying on the grounds now.
That's what she said.
And just twisted off in some places. It's just, you need to drive down through there and give you an humbling experience.
Well, it's sad, and those lives that was lost, and it's. Yeah. Master Harris.
Judge, I appreciate everything that's been said, and you know, I made phone calls to the judges and a couple of magistrates and asked if there's anything that we could do. One thing I did want to also, you know, this county is really invested in KCO, and I wanted to kind of pat them on the back. We had an emergency executive committee meeting after the storm, and made a $10,000 contribution to the Red Cross for the disaster relief, and had the crew, the insurance claims crew, was on the ground the day after the accident there in Morgan County and Menifee County, asking what they could do, and brought a load of supplies there. So, you know, it's being in that situation, as we've been in this county many times. It's nice to see a friendly face, somebody that's there to help, somebody that can do something to help, there to put out their hand. And I just want to say that about KCO.
Let me tell you about KCO.
We're part of that organization, and I was proud of what they've done.
Master Harris, KCO, one of the judges was telling me they had a leak in their new courthouse. New. And KCO responded the following afternoon. The trucks pulled in because it would have been major damage from the water in their new courthouse. And they responded just like that, and had two different companies, they said, brought their equipment in, and they was at the front door and both side doors of virtually saving that new building because it happened on a weekend and the water built up in it. But KCO is, and I think today, Jeannie, we got an email or something in regard to KCO's talking about the tornadoes that we had here in eastern Kentucky.
They're actually setting up, Judge, a temporary courthouse there in Morgan County. They have the facility Belfour, which is a group that
That's
comes
what
in and
we're
sets
trying
up
to get the communication set up,
communications.
wasn't it, Charles? We're trying to get the communication set back up. They don't even have any cell phones. I mean, they don't have nothing.
No, they have the Kentucky Emergency Management has their command center down there, and they also moved in a trailer for the county to use as a temporary EMS dispatch area, and that's what CJ's down there doing, is helping him set up the radio system for that.
Charles, I don't know if they know about it or not, but down at our state surplus, they did have several campers down there that was ready to be sold to the counties or nonprofit organizations. And, you know, if that county is not aware of it, maybe you can make them aware. I think Leo bought one, and they're real. We bought two, he said, and they're new campers.
They're nice campers. I think the one they brought in for the county to use was donated by somebody down there. So
We took
we'll make aware.
generators, but after we got down there, Doug told me that the National Guard brought generators with them.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we did take generators that was loaded. Any other statements? If not, we'll move on. And Mr. Stacy, you don't have any bids today. Magistrate road work. Motion by Magistrate Anderson. Have a second by Magistrate Murphy. Have a roll call vote, please.
Magistrate Anderson?
Yes.
Magistrate Johnson?
Yes.
Magistrate Murphy? Magistrate Robinson? Magistrate Dodson?
Yeah.
Magistrate Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes. Magistrate comments. Magistrate Anderson.
Judge, I'd just like to echo what everybody else has said. I've had some friends that live in both counties, and I've spoken to them and have seen several pictures, and it's just, you know, we really need to keep these people in our prayers. It's a tragedy, what happened. I just don't know, you know, how these people, I'm sure they're going to eventually overcome it, but it's just like John has said, it's awful to see the devastation. Very, very sad. One thing on a lighter note, I did have a gentleman retire from my road lot last week, Roger Sloan. I think he's turned in all his paperwork, and I believe at one time or another he's worked at I think in every district. But he was my excavator man, and we're going to miss him. So with Roger, did you? Okay. Huh? Powder, they call him? Yeah. But I'm going to miss him, and maybe
How many years did he have?
I'm not sure. He had bought some time, I believe. I know he had some military time, but
Brenda, he started.
95.
Started in 95.
17, 16, 93.
On behalf of the fiscal court, we need to.
Yeah, maybe
honor
we can honor
for
him
his
next
service.
meeting, and I think he's. He's for sure retired, hasn't he? I know there was a.
Magistrate Anderson, if you'll work with Jeannie,
I will.
We'll set something up for him to honor him for his service.
Okay, that's all I have.
Magistrate Johnson. Magistrate. Oh, yeah. Well, Menifee County had 2 deaths. Yeah, Menifee County had 2 deaths. Menifee County got hit hard. Of course, it's a very small county, but it got hit very hard. Menifee did. And Mrs. Runyon was contacting the judge executive and the court there, see if we could be of any assistance to them. Magistrate Robinson. Magistrate Dodson.
Judge, I got a few little things. Frankie, on our road salt, my road foreman told us today that we had to buy about 3 more loads of salt to meet the quota that we'd obligated on our contract. Does that sound about right?
I got a call from North American Salt this morning, and she said according to her records of what they have shipped out, we're still 466 ton shy of meeting the 65% minimum on the contract. So we need to buy 466 ton between now and, she said the contract ended at the end of this month, but what she said we could do is we can't stock it in our bins, we could prepay for it, go ahead and pay for it, and then it would be on hand for next year's use. So we wouldn't have to store it. That wouldn't be like the big issue. And I think I checked with Colleen today, and backing off the orders that got placed today, we'd probably still need to buy about 300 ton. But it could be 300 ton that we could use to start next year's, that would already be paid for.
Frankly, I've got plenty of room in the salt.
And
Don't know where to put it in, but you know, the money is what we're talking about. If we got to buy it, then that's something we got to do according to the contract. I don't think we're going to be needing it this year. It's a little different than what it was last year. Everybody was bagging for salt.
And that
They doubled the price on it, didn't they, Chick? They doubled it. They sure did.
But those salt companies they've always based their contracts on a 80-20.
Any other questions in regard to the salt?
Yeah, Judge, I've got, Frankie, Chris says he's found a company that we can get it for like $20 cheaper on a ton. And he's tried it out, I guess, is that right? And it's good salt. So you might need to check and see, you know. $20 a ton is a lot of savings.
Correct.
See, I talked to Chris right before the meeting, and what we're going to do is, because it's not actually road salt like the mine salt, it's actually a different process to come up with it. We're going to come up with a separate bid for it. That way, we'll award that out in June with the rest of the regular bids. And then once I get all the specs and stuff on it, and then that way, if you guys want to use it, it will be in addition to our salt bid.
That way, if we start using it next year and don't like it for some reason, we'll still have the salt bid in place.
You still have your salt to fall back on. But
we've used it we used it in this past snow, and it wasn't really a good snow to test it in, but it seemed to work real well in the salters, in the spreaders, and it's come from close range, so it's not like it has to be shipped from Brazil, because I think that's where our rock salt comes from, is Brazil, and comes up a barge on the Mississippi River.
But we'll come up with a separate bid for it in June and have it on hand as well as the regular road salt bid. So it depends on which one you want to use.
Okay, Magistrate Dodson. Go right ahead. They doubled the price on it.
We can buy it cheaper somewhere else next year. Let's buy it there.
Good, I agree. And we got a source for it. Thank you, Magistrate Harris.
I've got room to put quite a bit over there. But, Judge, another question, Frank. The bridges on Harricum that we have contracted out to Trey Atkins, I guess we need to probably check him out. He's needing some money, he told the road foreman. And looking at the bridges, I hope they'll be all right, but, you know, I was up there Thursday looking at them, and one of them is kind of awkward looking, but, you know, when they get it filled, and it might look better. And I hope it's a pretty sharp curve over where they've got that bridge laid out there. And have you went by and looked at them?
They were pouring on one of them. They poured a little concrete curb going off today.
Yeah.
And he likes just a little bit of.
Hatch, use your mic. Use your mic there, please.
He likes a little bit of field area. And Randy met with him this afternoon. I talked to him about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And that's on the number 2 and the number 3 bid bridges.
I think we've got money available, don't we, Jonda, to pay him for partial payment on them bridges? That was a match. Did we ever get our money from the state?
It's on.
We don't get match money. We have to pay for it up front. I've got that going in this amendment of $121,800, which you come out to the good on, because the estimates that they ended up coming in on for the actual work versus what you turned in to get the money, you're only going to have to come up about $13,500 instead of an actual 20 or 25% match. They went based on the estimate and aren't going to make us redo it. I've talked with Rick Long.
Yeah, we'll do okay on them bridges. But, Judge, another thing I have is road lock, Frank, I guess, can y'all give us any update on where we stand on their fence?
Randy Friday talked to Kenny Smith, what's gone down over the weekend. I'm gonna try to get with Kenny this week. You and I, Kenny and Randy, we've got to get an agreement set up with him, what he's gonna pay for about the fence, the gate has to be moved. And then after we get that decided, then I've got to get Roland
Gotta get the county attorney
involved, because he has to go through a filing suit. Roland, you can bring him up to date on the procedure you have to have or do.
I've been waiting for someone to tell me that there is an agreement, and at which time we'll need to file a lawsuit to quiet title and try to do a judicial settlement of involving a swap of land to resolve the disputed title. But the last time I talked to you, there was an issue about who's going to pay for moving the fence that we'd already put up. My position from the get-go has been put the fence in and go from there. But I understand that Magistrate Dotson, you didn't have a problem if we could work out the other way. As a matter of fact, you thought we were a little better off. But
well, talking to the road foreman today, he seems to think Kenny don't want to trade, and we've already got our line posts up and ready for the wire to be stretched.
Put the fence up then if he doesn't want to.
And Frank, if you can get a hold of him, if he don't want to trade, then we're ready to move. Because we've been a long time trying to work this out.
Oh, I know it. I've tried to talk to him and everything. Then y'all kind of said put a stop. We're going to work it out. Kenny was there last week down there at that other building that we were going to trade with him, is my understanding. He's down there cleaning it up and that. So, I guess like Roland said, I'm just going to have the fence company go over and go ahead and set her. We've got the poles up and go ahead and string her wire, because we own the property, and take it from there.
Good shape. Magistrate Dotson.
When are we going to get the rent settled with the other properties to where you can quit paying?
We need to do a certified letter to the lady. I think that we've done everything we're supposed to do to clean the property up according to Damus, and I will try to get that letter out to her tomorrow, just saying that this will be the last month we're going to pay that. I think we've satisfied our obligations. Is that correct, Damus?
Yes. Magistrate Dotson.
Frank, our hammer we have sitting over at the Phelps road lock that we use to put steel in the ground.
Right.
Is there any way we can get that rock chipper put on that? We've got some places, I know the other magistrates do too, that we need to chip some rock so the creek won't wash our roads out. And it's just been sitting over there for 5 or 6 months. And, if we can get that hammer put on it, then we could probably use it a lot.
I've got no problem with getting that done. I'll get with Jeff and see at his convenience. I know he's covered up at the maintenance garage, and see how soon he can, we'll have it hauled over there to the garage and start working on it.
Good shape.
I know it's needed. There's no question every one of y'all can use it in your district,
Magistrate Dotson.
Judge, swimming pool season's coming on. I know we have an option whether or not we're going to open them or not, but we've got a lot of money already invested in the Freeburg and Johnson Bottom pool with new filters, and probably, Damus, we're getting ready to go online with it to get her running, I guess, and make sure everything is going to be all right. But the last report I got from the contractor was that we had a leak in the trough where the return water went back into the pumps. That was the last report I got. We'd had some rusty places, and we would lose 2 inches a day until it was fixed. We could operate it the way it is, but we would keep having to add water into it. Is that what you're getting?
Yes, and he called me and was wanting to get with you. He didn't have your number, he said. So I gave him your number. He's supposed to got with you and talk with you about what you're going to do there.
Well, he called me, and I told him that probably needs to work that out with you on the time frame when he gets ready to open the pool up. You know, I don't think he wanted to come in there right now and tear everything up. He talked like we would have to tear out some of the concrete where the troughs go, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. Did he give you any indication?
No, he didn't. Like I said, the last time he talked to me was he's wanting your phone number to talk to you.
You reckon we get some of that spray like that guy puts on the bottom of that boat?
I don't know.
But Judge, I'd appreciate we get it checked out and get it fixed and get it going, and hopefully we'll have the money in the budget to open our pools. I've had a lot of calls about them. It's something I guess we'll know in a few days. You know what we're going to have and what we're going to be able to do.
Correct.
But another thing, Damus, over at the Hatfield McCoy Park, we're wanting to put in a volleyball court, and I think I called your office and she was supposed to give you an order some the landscaping timbers that go down, like you put around playground equipment.
Who was supposed to got that to me? Who?
Teen was going to talk to you about that.
Okay, she hasn't
And
yet.
we probably can get some sand from the river.
Yeah.
And it won't be a real expensive project, but we've got room over there, and the community has showed some interest in getting a volleyball court set up there in that park.
Master Dodson.
Judge, I believe I just about talked out. If you need me to go with any of the employees to one of the areas that's hit, I'm ready and willing to go do what I can. And another thing before I close, I see the press out here. You know, they've been hitting us pretty hard the last few weeks, and I think it's unwarranted. You know, we as magistrates do more than 2 hours or 2 court meetings a month, and I just feel like it. You know, if they only knew the obligations that we carry on our shoulders to the people, and I invite them to come and visit with our neighborhoods and see how big area that we have, and there's no way that you, as a judge, can operate this county by yourself.
Impossible.
And, you know, I just hope that when the press attack us, that they give us a good judgment.
One thing, Master Dodson, that I read about was talking about blacktop and private driveways. I'm like Master Robinson said, if you all have got that kind of information, the grand jury just finished up, you should have been upstairs for the grand jury. That don't happen in this county. And the county attorney can tell you that we are very sticky in regard to working on anything on private property. And if you got that kind of information, show up here at the grand jury. But putting stuff like that in the paper that's uncalled for, and it's not.
Yeah, I beg them to take mine every time they come around and do the employees. I say, here's I'm ready.
I just think that is strictly uncalled for.
But you know, another thing, Judge, before I quit, you know, they're talking about buying vehicles and things. I think that the vehicle that I ride is probably about 7 years old, and when the times got tough, I parked the vehicle at the county maintenance garage, and I drove it to the court meeting tonight. When I go out on the road or something, I'll go pick it up. But when we have a snow, I'll be in there plowing snow with it. You know, it's not a luxury vehicle, and I think, you know, when they start throwing stones, if you live in a glass house, you better watch about throwing them too hard.
Chris, you're next. I think me and Hillman's, we're done on that issue.
Judge, thank you. This past week, there was a bill that was introduced in the House of Representatives in Kentucky that has really got me concerned, and it should everybody in Pike County and the members of this court as well. This is House Bill 496. It was introduced by Representative Johnny Bell from Glasgow and Representative Coursey from out in Marshall County. And basically what it does, it changes the open records laws in Kentucky. And it changes the definition of what a public agency is, or what a public agency is. It says that currently it's any entity that receives 25% or more of its funds from state or local authorities. And this changes that to make an exclusion. It says 25% of funds expended by the Commonwealth of Kentucky from a state or local authority, and then it adds, however, any funds derived from a state or local authority in compensation for goods or services that are provided by a contract obtained through a public procurement process shall not be included in the determination of whether a body is a public agency under this subsection. And that relates directly to our issue with UMG and Mountain Water. This bill is specifically designed to exclude entities like UMG from the open records laws. And in our case, that would prevent us from having any information about the operations of our water district. We can't see how UMG is spending these public funds. So what I've done is I've prepared a resolution. I'm going to read it and present it to the court, and I'm going to make a motion that we adopt it. But it's a resolution regarding House Bill 496 relating to open records. Whereas Pike County is the largest county in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and whereas the governing body of Pike County is the Pike County Fiscal Court, being comprised of 6 magistrates and a county judge executive, elected by the people of Pike County to, among other things, establish, provide for, and monitor the administration of public services to the citizens of Pike County. And whereas in providing for the basic and fundamental need of all Pike Countyans to have access to clean, affordable drinking water, the Pike County Fiscal Court created and established the Mountain Water District as a public utility to construct, operate, and maintain the public water system in Pike County. And whereas the Mountain Water District Board of Directors has contracted the entire operation of the Mountain Water District out to a private company known as Utility Management Group, LLC, which company has consistently and repeatedly refused to comply with the Kentucky Open Records Act to make available public documents despite numerous requests from the Pike County Fiscal Court to do so. And whereas although 61.872 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes provides for inspection of certain public records, the Kentucky Attorney General has ruled the records requested by the Fiscal Court must be disclosed. The Kentucky State Auditor has opined the records are subject to Kentucky Open Records Law, and the Pike County Fiscal Court is presently involved in litigation with Utility Management Group, seeking a court order requiring it to comply with the Open Records Statute. Utility Management Group, LLC continues to refuse to provide the records despite numerous requests to do so. Whereas House Bill 496 was introduced in the Kentucky House of Representatives on February the 28th, 2012, which bill would have the effect of exempting Utility Management Group, LLC, and other private corporations which obtain contracts to work for public utilities such as Mountain Water District from being considered public agencies under the law, and thereby preventing the public from having access to records directly related to the operation of a public entity. And whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court desires the operations at Mountain Water District to be open and transparent so that the Fiscal Court and the general public can be informed and closely monitor the financial condition and detailed expenditures charged to the district and thus paid for by the public, making certain such expenditures are not excessive, wasteful, inconsistent with a public purpose, or not in the public's best interest. And whereas the passage of House Bill 496 would prevent the Pike County Fiscal Court and the citizens of Pike County from inspecting or obtaining records directly related to the operation of Mountain Water District, and would also hinder the court and the public in monitoring the expenditure of public funds thus keeping the people of Pike County in the dark without sufficient method of evaluating the performance of the district or its private contractor. Now therefore be it resolved on this 6th day of March 2012 that the Pike County Fiscal Court officially opposes legislation introduced in the Kentucky General Assembly known as House Bill 496. The same should not be enacted in its present form, and if passed, should be vetoed by the Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky due to the language contained therein, which limits and diminishes the public's right to examine the records and evaluate the performance of public contracts, thus limiting and reducing the scrutiny under which private companies which work primarily for the public operate. That's the 6th day of March 2012. Judge, that's a resolution that I've prepared, and I'd like to make a motion that this court adopt that resolution.
We have a motion, but let me make a statement on that. House Bill 496, yes, it's been filed by 2 representatives, was the sponsors, but it was filed at the request of the nonprofit hospitals in Kentucky and the nonprofits, all of the nonprofits in Kentucky, who have been bombarded and taken away from what they're supposed to be providing as a nonprofit and as a hospital, and their staff has been bombarded with requests under this act since the Attorney General ruled the way he ruled. So that is the purpose. It's my understanding it is not a bill has anything to do with UMG. And there's some question, I think, Mr. County Attorney, you had a statement, you didn't even know where that would have anything to do with our suit or not, if I read the paper correctly.
Judge, I think it would going forward. The question that was posed to me by the newspaper editor was whether or not it would have any effect on the existing suit, and the off-the-cuff opinion I gave them at that time was that unless they made it retroactive, it would not. Generally, statutes that are substantive in nature are not retroactive. If they're procedure in nature, they are. So it would have an effect on any future requests for UMG going forward. My off-the-cuff opinion without researching it is I don't think it would affect the present suit. I have not researched it because until the bill is passed, I didn't see any reason to research it, because having a bill introduced and its passage is 2 different things.
Well, I don't think we need to pass it. Of course, you have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I like to second it. It sounds like an awful good motion to shed transparency on anything that's Baldur's Road.
Be fine. You have a motion and a second, and I think I'll not say anything else, because I think you understand when I vote no why I'm voting no, because it has nothing to do with this. Madam Clerk, have a roll call vote, please.
Master Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I want to vote no. This thing has been in court, let's wait and see how that case comes out before I vote in.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
No. Motion carried. Madam, Mr. Harris, you have anything else?
Motion didn't carry.
No, motion, I'm getting like Judge Thompson over Knox County. Motion failed. Let me say this. I appreciate Judge Hayes coming out today. He's been very ill for the last few days, and he didn't feel like coming this morning. If he wants to tell it on himself, he can, but he thought this court meeting was this morning, Master Harris, and he showed up in terrible shape this morning. He said, I wouldn't have come if he hadn't, and he had to get straightened out, saying, no, the meeting's of the evening. But he bared it out this morning, went home and took a nap, and showed back up here. We appreciate it.
Judge, I'd like to direct anybody that I know a lot of people have been watching this on TV, and I appreciate that. And I want to direct anybody that's interested in this issue. If you want to read the bill, there's a link to it on my website, and there's a really good article in the Lexington Herald Leader. They seem to be real interested in finding out what's going on, what's behind the issue. It's in the Friday, March 2nd edition of the Herald Leader, and I've got a link to that on my Facebook page too if you want to go and read that. But it fills in a lot of blanks, and there's a lot going on here that the public needs to know about, and we need to be more transparent in with our water district, and this article opens up a lot of eyes. So if you would take a look at that.
Anything else, Mr. Harris? If not, Treasurer, Madam Treasurer.
Authorize any necessary transfers and interfund transfers to pay the bills, payroll, health, and life insurance.
Have a motion? Have a motion and have a second. Have a second from Master Johnson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes. Madam Treasurer.
Acknowledge receipt of the previously approved transfers and interfund transfers for January 17th, 2012, and February 7th, 2012.
Have a motion. Have a motion, Master Murphy. Have a second, Master Robinson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes.
Assistant County Attorney, can you have the first
Mr. County
reading of the budget
Attorney.
amendment?
This is a first reading of a budget amendment, an ordinance relating to the fiscal year 2011-2012 annual budget and amendment thereof, whereas the Pike County Fiscal Court has realized unbudgeted receipts from the following funds in summary form. Section 1, Sub A, total amended revenues of $550,007.59. Sub B, appropriations, total amended appropriations of $550,007.59. It's the first reading in summary form, will need to be duly advertised.
Acknowledge receipt of the Treasurer's January 2012 financial statement.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion. Have a second. Have a second. Have a roll call vote, please, Master Robinson.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes. Madam
Authorize the registration fees and lodging for anyone who wishes to attend the Kentucky Magistrates and Commissioners Association 26th Annual Spring Conference, April 13th through the 15th, 2012, at the Gold House Hotel and Suites in Louisville, Kentucky.
Have a motion. Have a motion. Have a second. Master Johnson, have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I want to ask that newspaper man back there. Can I vote for that?
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes. Madam Treasurer.
Will you print that newspaper man? Okay.
Authorize a check back to Department for Local Government to the Kentucky State Treasurer. We inadvertently received the $100,000 in technology money that was intended for the Pikeville Independent Board of Education, so we need to act as though we never received the check and receipted it by decreasing our revenues by the $100,000 to give them their money back so they can send it to the appropriate authorities.
Motion.
Have a motion. Master Anderson, have a second. Have a second. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes.
We can do the next two under one. Authorize a check when the NRCS funds are received to Walker Appraisals in the amount of $1,200 each for technical review of appraisal reports for David Jewell property and David A. Pruitt property.
You're going to do both of those at the same time? Yes, sir. Okay. That's pass-through money, Jeannie? Pass-through money. Have a motion. Have a motion. Have a second. Have a second, Master Johnson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Rutherford?
Yes.
Authorize a check to bigsigns.com in the amount of $1,759 for a media banner with banner stand to be reimbursed from area development funds.
Have a motion, have a second. Have a second. Master Johnson, have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes.
The power bill for the smart trailer has gotten delinquent, and they've added a deposit to us. In order to get it removed and hopefully keep the deposit off by not being late anymore, authorize a check to the Kentucky Power Company for the Smart Fire Safety Training Trailer in the amount of $193.30 in order to keep the deposit removed and keep current.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Master Anderson, have a second. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes.
Authorize a check to CM&T Construction Incorporated in the amount of $14,075 for work at the Governor Volunteer Fire Department shed.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion, Master Anderson, have a second. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Yes.
Authorize a check once Commissioner Hatcher has approved the work on these two bridges. Authorize a check to TACO in the amount of $58,500 for two concrete bridges. Hurricane at Kemper, first bridge, $29,250. And Hurricane at Kemper number 2, second bridge, $29,250, and this is the amount that the bid was received at.
Motion.
Motion? Motion and second by Master Anderson. Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Judge Ruth?
Madam Treasurer, anything else?
No, sir, I have no further business.
Okay, we have personnel, Judge Hayes.
I'm sorry, Judge. No, I think we can get by here.
Okay.
I think there's anything that controversial. I can hand these out. There you go. You don't get one.
Go right ahead, Judge Hayes. And
Judge, there are several matters, but I don't think any of them really are subject matter that we absolutely required to take up in executive session. We had two posted jobs. First, a weed mower, which requires a CDL. It's a weed mower CDL driver, road lot number 1 at Johns Creek, 3H rate of pay. Clyde Sexton is a full-time employee with CDL. He bid on that job, and the road commissioner, Frank Hatcher, has tested him on the equipment and reports that he can operate it satisfactorily. So we recommend, excuse me, Clyde Sexton for that position, and his employment in that position would be effective on Thursday of this week, whatever day that is, Judge. So that's our recommendation there. The next one, Judge, is again an unusual situation that we've had come up at least one time before. There was a posted job, mini packer driver, solid waste area number 5 at the Stone Lot, a 3H rate of pay. Thomas Green is a full-time employee with a CDL who's qualified for that. The unusual twist there is that Mr. Green had already cross-bid within the past year, and under the code would not be eligible to cross-bid again, which this is. However, I've discussed this with Mr. Case prior to the meeting, and because only one person bid, we need to fill the job. There's really no one competitor to complain, and I would simply recommend Thomas Green, who's qualified and the only employee to bid, with the court having the understanding that strictly, legally speaking, he's not supposed to get another position on that cross bid. So that's my recommendation, Thomas Green.
Go ahead.
Judge, we hire 2 seasonal employees early and let them go late due to the nature of their work at Grants Branch Park over in District 6, and we need approval to rehire longtime employees over at Grants Branch, Jackie Queen and Ryan Ward, as seasonal employees at a 2H pay rate. That would be effective March the 1st, 2012. We need, and by the way, I'm informed, and Judge, I think you've been informed also, that Mr. Queen anticipates resigning shortly. Isn't that right, Master Harris? And is it Mr. Queen? And so we hope that he doesn't, but if he does, we'll just have to address that when it comes up. Next, we need to acknowledge the termination of Tony Roberts from Solid Waste Area Number 3 as of February 7, 2012. Tony's been off work since November 9, 2011 on sick leave. He was foreman of Area Number 3 Solid Waste, has worked for the court since March 20th, 1995. The court will recall that he needed some extra time. You all agreed to do that, get him through the month of February so that he would have insurance coverage, and the court approved that about 2 meetings ago, I believe, Brenda. And he has applied for his retirement. He's also applied for his Social Security, disability benefits, and so forth. So we need to go ahead and terminate him as a matter of record.
Let me say this, and I'm sure that Magistrate Johnson agreed. He's been a great employee. And had a lot of health problems, hadn't he, Chick, with his back? Had about 5 or 6 operations. Go right ahead.
All right. We need to acknowledge, and this is what Magistrate Anderson referred to earlier, acknowledge the resignation, that handwritten resignation I handed out with the cover sheet of Roger Sloan from Road Lot Number 1. That would be effective February 29, 2012. Mr. Sloan was a heavy equipment operator for Road Lot Number 1. He started working for Pike County Fiscal Court on March 15, 1993 as a temporary heavy equipment operator, and went full-time on April 3rd, 1995. And that's, again, we'll set up something, Judge, and honor him accordingly. Next, we need approval to hire Justin Arnett as a temporary replacement loader, Solid Waste Area Number 2, replacing Ronnie Thacker. That would be effective March 1, 2012. Mr. Thacker is currently replacing Brandon Powell, who is off work on workers' compensation. Did I get that right, Mike? All right, thank you. Next, we've had a request for an additional 3 months sick leave for Melissa Pinion, an additional time of 3 months. She's been off the 3 months allowed by code, is that right, Brenda? And she's asking for an additional 3 months. You see, she's been off work since November the 30th, 2011. That's up to the discretion of the court. We have no recommendation one way or another on that.
Where's she work at? What she do?
She works in finance. She's, what's her position up there, Rhonda? Payroll clerk? Is that good enough?
We just need to make sure we treat everybody
We treat everybody else right. That's might well give it to her.
Okay.
treat everybody alike.
Okay. Do what? Yeah, her 3 months are up. She's asking for an
6
additional
months,
3 months, which this is non-work related, so she can get up to 6 months.
6 months.
Okay. And there's a letter in that, there's a written request, and that's also, I've handed that out. Finally, Judge, we need approval to rehire or hire seasonal workers. That'd be our weed mowing crew, our mowing crews. Judge, you and I discussed this. We were looking at April the 15th. Damus mentioned April the 1st. That the court needs to decide that date. We need to have them in place by Hillbilly Days. They do a lot of work, Amos, as I understand, helping out and getting things ready for Hillbilly Days. And the growing season certainly will be upon us in April. So we had 6 last year. Actually, we had 8 at one time as a budgetary measure. We cut back to 6. That gives us a crew of 3. 8 was better, but 6 we can get by on. But you all need to decide whether you want to start it on April the 1st or April the 15th. My recommendation. Are they getting big, Chick? You got any problem with that?
April 1st.
All right, we'll recommend April the 1st, Judge.
This is my recommendation and my motion. Have a second.
Same time. Now, here, let me go ahead and add that we will give, as has been the policy of this court ever since I've been here, priority to the laid-off employees. In other words, those employees on those seasonal crews who want to come back to work and work will be given that opportunity. I will inform the court that several of them have gotten jobs during the winter and are now working full-time. We give them that consideration. And so we'll call back those who are left first. We always have to hire some additional, so we will bring those names before the court. I said on them for April the 1st that we'll have the specific names, but I just need for the court to give me authority to hire up to 6 of those folks, realizing we call the old crew back first, those who are left and who want to work. That's my recommendation.
John, I'll make a motion. We hire them back, but now when are we going to hire our people that takes care of the parks on the mowing and upkeep and looking after the parks? When do we do that?
Well, we've got the grants branch in place. Master Harris and I are trying to decide on what we need to do over at Hardy Park. We're not yet set on that. We'll bring back Fish Trap on April the 1st. Who's left?
Well, last year, I brought it up about Hatfield-McCoy Park. We've got a person that takes care of that, and we've never given him anything for it. He empties the garbage every week, and he cuts the grass and opens and closes the gates, and I just feel like he's left out. And if we're going to pay other caretakers, then we need to look at probably putting somebody in there.
We have to put it in the budget this year, so we need to keep that in mind.
You all establish the position and put the money in the budget. We'd be happy to.
Well, if there's going to be money in the budget for this and that, why not put a little bit in for Hatfield and McCoy? That's one of the top names of this county, Hatfield.
I agree, Master Dawson, but that's not my call. That's the court's call.
It's probably one of the best upkept park that we have, and that's part of the county too.
I don't disagree, but like I say, I can't just hire somebody for a position that doesn't exist.
I can't vote for somebody that's going over here and there and making a lot more, and you're leaving out part of the county that's used too. Let's do this thing even and equal and treat everybody right.
We need to make sure it's put in the budget for next year.
If it ain't in there, take it out of what got in the other parts. If you want.
Well, just let.
Yeah, we have to.
Let me make it clear that I can't hire anybody for a position that hadn't been created. I just can't do that. And that position.
We've got some parks. They're getting $1,000 a month, right? And we've got some that's getting none. And I just think it's what's fair for one is fair for the other. Them people over there pay taxes too, and they use that park. I don't know what kind of motion to make. I don't know what they're going to do. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking when are they going to hire these caretakers?
It has to be in the budget, and it has to be an established position.
Are we getting ready to start a new budget here for long?
Yep.
It's either put it in or take it out.
Correct. What do you need?
Well, I don't know that their motions can be made, but
I
your
made my
motion for
recommendations,
personnel can
that's
be
your
made.
motion.
My
Judge.
motion, and I have a second, have a roll call vote, please. That's on the personnel.
Right. Who's the second? Who did the second? Mr. Anderson, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Dodson,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Judge Rutherford.
Yes. Need a motion to adjourn. Motion, and
Adjourn.
second. Have a roll
Okay,
call
all
vote.
right, let's go. Hey, Philman, I love